Hey, good day today. Welcome to our podcast, Champions Are Built. This is Coach EJ, the brand.
It's co-chairing the source. EJ, got a good subject today. Don't know how long it'll take us to cover it, but I think it's timely for this time of the year, and hopefully we can give some insight and some good information for the parents and athletes at this point. And we're going to entitle this one, Have a Reason for Every Season, Planning Your Athletic Calendar. And what we mean by that, and I guess what was the catalyst for this conversation for me, in the last few weeks, school started. A lot of kids are back to school, so a lot of kids are getting into their, I do a lot of work with baseball players, as you know, and so a lot of kids are getting into their, I guess we'd call fall programs,
right?
And so they're trying to figure out, how do I navigate all of these pieces, going to school, having an off-season training program with my high school, or maybe if they're a middle school athlete, playing more fall ball after playing the summer, and where should my priorities lie? And so that's why I have that saying for parents: have a reason for every season.
Mm-hmm.
And in youth sports now, because it's such a commercial industry, there's a big push to have athletes play year round. And that push, I think sometimes on its surface looks like it's developmental, but it's really, I think, driven more by economics. And so what parents have to do is, I think parents need to realize when they should be doing things, playing, training, getting private instruction, and knowing when is the best time to maximize each of those, environments and opportunities, and not just kind of get caught up in this whirlwind. Okay, we played summer ball, now we're playing fall ball. Oh, hey, there's a winter season now, and now we're going to play, they get caught up in this whole thing. And from a trainer side, I see that there's a lack of development on the training side, and playing is not necessarily developing.
Right.
And there's some athletes who need to skew that balance more on the playing side, because maybe they picked the sport up late and they need more time in and reps and things like that. And so maybe they need more game scenarios, but maybe they just need more instruction. But there's some kids who are really behind in their physical development. And each year they get further and further behind because all they're doing is playing. Right. And so now that gap tends to widen, because there's already a natural separation when you go from elementary to middle school, and from middle school to high school. And so just from the natural maturation process of athletes, you're going to get these degrees of separation, and it's kind of hard to keep up unless you're doing the proper physical development and skill development. And so that's the dilemma I see a lot of athletes and parents facing. And so my answer is, have a reason for every season. Make out an athletic calendar. Know what you're going to do each time of the year. Maybe break it into 3 or 4 month blocks and say, okay, now we're going to off-season train. Yeah, there's baseball available, and there's basketball available, and there's soccer available, but is playing now really going to benefit me in the long term? Or is just playing now a space saver and just a way to stay on this club or appease this coach? So I want them to step back and say, hey, you know what? In a 12-month calendar year, this is what we do this time of the year. This is what we do this time of the year. This is what we do this time of the year. And that might even include playing a different sport on that break period to kind of get some kind of cross training and just a break from the monotony of playing one single sport.
Right.
So anyway, long intro explanation, but let's hear your thoughts, man.
You know what? I love the fact you talked about all those things. And the reason why is because no one's talking about it. And we're talking about it because we think it's really important as we see athletes. You and I have been doing this for combined over 60 years of experience, but you having your facility, me having my club, and me having club athletes, meaning having baseball players that play a schedule. I break it up into a lot of several categories, Aaron, that you talked about. We got the elementary school athlete, okay?
Mhm.
Five, K to 5. And then you've got the junior high athletes, seventh and eighth graders, sixth, seventh, eighth. And then you've got, check out these categories now, pitchers,
Mhm.
pitchers, arm use. And I talked to a lot of doctors. I'm going to mention Dr. Preston out there and Workman, guys I've worked with a lot. And we talked about arm injuries with youth sports, college athletes, high school athletes. College recruiting. I'm gonna throw that out there. I'm throwing these other kind of like little
Mhm.
tentacles out there, college recruiting and stuff like that, when should you play and all that. You said something very important, instruction development. When are we going to like develop some sort of personal skills in their sport? Physical development, like training. When you're going to train and get stronger, quicker, faster, or whatever you're trying to do to offset some of the things that you're not doing well. Mental development. A lot of athletes are lacking in this department, mental development. And then at the end of it, at the end of that calendar year, adjust your calendar accordingly to what you need to do better. That's why we say there's a reason for every season. You always at the end have to adjust. So I kind of threw, from what you said, I threw everything into what I've seen over my career, and it's different for every athlete. And I think parents need to understand that just because you're a baseball athlete doesn't mean you have to play year round. It's not really a year round sport. The professional athletes in Major League Baseball do not play year round. They don't. College baseball players do not play year round. They probably play a more strenuous schedule than the pro guys. And then the high school kids play way too much baseball. I
Yeah.
mean, I hate to tell you this, but there's a recruiting period. And that's why I threw college recruiting in there, Aaron, because for instance, we know the college recruiting periods are these times: fall ball for a month, summer for 7 weeks, 6 to 7 weeks. That's it. That's the only time coaches can go out and watch players play, unless they have college camps. But how can a college have a college camp and out recruiting? So how can the recruiting coordinator or the head coach who's out looking for athletes be at that college camp? And that's where the misinformation happens on college recruiting. Why do you have these college camps all the time if your head people who make decisions are out recruiting? So you start thinking about these things too. And I tell people this is that have this calendar, and and please look at it closely, plan it closely, so at least you know what you're getting out of it. And that includes the elementary athlete. That I think the cross training thing, if I had a kid at this age, not really at this age, but if I had a younger kid, what I'm saying is that, and he's an elementary school athlete, he's playing a lot of sports. They're not playing one sport. They're playing, I'm putting a tennis racket in the hand. I'm doing judo, karate, gymnastics. I'm doing football. I'm playing all the sports to get a feel of how they move their body. Because that's where you get, a feeling of how they really move. And I wouldn't specialize in anything. There's a time and place for specialization, Aaron.
Yeah.
You know what that is? That's in high school when they say, you know what, I'm kind of falling behind, or I'm going in this direction a little bit more. You know what? The sport's going to tell you that. I always tell athletes, okay, hey, you'll figure it out. And they look at me like, hey, aren't you going to tell me when to? No, there's going to be a time and place where you're going to say, I need to spend more time either at football, baseball, basketball, soccer, whatever the sport they're playing, water polo. And it's gonna dictate it. The competition will dictate that. So we don't need to specialize so early. That's why we should have a reason for every season, why we should have this instruction development, physical development, mental development, and all that stuff. So that's kind of my spin on it today, Aaron, about this, and being smart about how to really plan a solid calendar where there is rest involved too. And I think people forget that rest needs to be involved so
Exactly.
the muscles can develop, grow, and you can actually improve.
Right. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned sports specialization because we actually did a podcast on this too, and you guys should look that up because that is probably one of the biggest problems facing a lot of these young athletes right now. And again, it's it's well-meaning parents, but they just don't know, and they're
Right.
not getting the proper information. And you've got to understand that you've got to do what's right for your kid, have an honest assessment of where they're at, and then make those, decisions accordingly. But to just kind of blindly follow what the herd is doing, doesn't really serve people well. And I'm just talking from experience because I get the kids who
Right.
are, juniors in high school and sophomores and seniors, and they're behind in certain things that they really shouldn't be behind in. More and more of my work now seems to be focused on the rudimentary and basic athletic movements than on specialized or
Yeah, I do. I
unique
do.
sorts of training and everything. And everyone's looking for that, but they don't have the basic athletics or skill set or even functional skill set to do some of the more advanced things. So
Wow.
um yeah, it's getting to be more and more of a problem. So
Um, yeah, I
uh
have one thing on that, Aaron, just a
mhm,
minute. I'm running into the same thing from the baseball side of it. There seems to be less fundamentals. Like kids don't know how to bunt anymore.
yeah.
Like that to me is a fundamental, but kids don't know how to like, how does this hand go? How does the bottom hand go? I mean, I'm getting back to basics.
Yeah.
I mean, so they may have a skill set, but they
Mhm.
don't have a fundamental base to improve the skill set. So I
So
just wonder, you're probably seeing the same thing I'm seeing right now.
no, yeah, you're right. You're right. And to kind of frame this a little bit easier, because we've kind of talked about a couple different things. For a baseball athlete, say baseball athlete, middle school athlete,
Okay.
what should a typical year look like? And again, everyone, we're just talking general. Everyone is specific because some kids are further along in their athletic in physical development and technical development. Some aren't, but what would you say? How would you map out a year? Say, hey, EJ, you know what? I've got a 12-year-old athlete. He's played a couple years of baseball,
Hmm.
wants to play in high school. So I guess say he's a sixth
Right.
grader,
Right.
somewhere between sixth and eighth grade.
Right.
What would you say we should focus on? Or how, not focus on, but how should we break up our year? What should maybe a year look like? He's
Hmm.
kind of average in everything, nothing,
Right.
glaring deficiencies or upsides.
I would say this. Your season starts September 1st. Okay, so that's going to be your calendar is going to start September 1st. And September 1st, you're going to play for 8 weeks. You're going to play in a fall program. Okay, it could be 6 to 8 weeks. Okay, in your fall program, you're working on, as you said, Aaron, instruction development and physical development. Those things can happen during that time. You're getting baseball development and you're getting some sort of training development,
Now,
like sports performance. You're doing that to kind of figure out what's going on and helping both. Both are being helped in that way.
now, I just want to put an emphasis on that point because I run into this all the time. None of these things happen in a vacuum out there, guys. I have a lot of parents and athletes think they only have to do one thing
Right.
during a certain period, and you don't. A lot of times you should be doing physical development training with skill development training. Now the volumes and intensities can be skewed based on that, but don't get into this whole one trick pony. I'm just going to do this for the next 4 months and nothing else. These
Right.
things can work together and they should work together. That's how you bridge these activities together so that you get performance. And I hear this, I get this pushback. Well, is it going to be too much? And I always laugh when it's baseball because I'm like, your
Right.
baseball practice is 2 hours, but it's not 2 hours of strenuous physical activity. So, you should be able to do an hour of some kind of physical development afterwards or
Right.
prior to.
Yeah.
I always say do your skill work first and then your physical stuff second because you want to do your skill work when you're fresh because the learning is greater.
Right.
But if you can't, well, then you just can't. But it doesn't mean, okay, well, we're not going to we're not going to train. If
Right.
that's just what you're presented with, you have to work through that. And I tell kids and parents all the time, you can't just put you can't push the gas and pump the brakes at the same time.
Right.
And that's what people are trying to do. And so you have to acclimate the kid to doing a lot of these things. I don't know what the word is, congruently at the same
Yeah,
time.
congruently at the
Yeah.
same time. Exactly.
And it's just something I think people struggle with. And the other thing, if you're trying to be a D1 athlete, if your goal is to be a D1 athlete, that is what you're doing.
You're going to do that.
That is what you're doing. And kind of an offshoot to this, because now fast forward and your kid is lucky enough and skilled enough to go to college and play college sports. You know what I'm starting to find why a lot of these kids are going back into the portal is because they can't handle the load of academics, training, and playing.
Right.
That is a big factor because a lot of these kids are handheld through this whole process where they're only doing one activity. And they don't understand when you go to college athletics, it's 2 hours of baseball practice, another hour and a half of performance training. Then you may have to have 2 or 3 hours of study. And you have to learn how to manage your time, manage your resources. And so, what better way is to get your athletes started in middle school and learning how to time manage, how to make the choices between what takes priority here and then, and doing that at an earlier age so that it doesn't smack them in the face when they get to college and they're overwhelmed. It doesn't mean they're not good enough, but it's because they're overwhelmed. And then they haven't sat in that long enough to figure it out. And so what do they want to do? Oh, I'm going to run and cut bait and I'm going to go in the portal.
Right. So it's easier.
Yep.
It's not,
And I think that's a very big reason why athletes are bouncing back, or they're going from a D1 to a D2 or D3 because they're looking for the path of least resistance.
path of
And
least.
they haven't been conditioned up to that point to be able to work through all of those things.
Well said with that.
Anyway, just a thought.
So, after that fall, which is, like I said, it's a 7 to 8 week period, October 1st, right? I mean, you're done. Then you can go back to this training, back to this physical development. And I think that's important because you got to have a base, Aaron, right? You got to have a base of training. And now you can build on that base. You've already done some things for 8 weeks during the fall. Then you take a week off or 10 days off, then get back to your physical development. Now, that physical development would be great for the next 8 to 12 weeks. It really would. It goes a long way. Get away, put the baseball down. Don't throw the baseball. Don't do anything that has that repetitive motion. Go ahead and build and use the strength of physical development to build that repetitive motion. So again, you're off in November, off in December, and at the end of January, that's about 10, 11 weeks, almost 12 weeks, you're going to start back to baseball. And that's like spring training. I always look at it this way. You got 6 weeks to 8 weeks like spring training. So you're maybe playing with your team, but you're starting off slow. You're not like it's like the big leagues. So you're going to do 8 weeks of spring training. And then your first scrimmages and stuff probably start about 5 weeks into that development. So somewhere in February, you're going to start doing like, hey, we're going to have these little scrimmages and stuff. By March 1st, March 15th, you're into your spring summer season. March 15th to, listen to this. This is going to throw everybody off now, Aaron. You're done June 30th. You're not doing that. You're done playing baseball. So from July 1st to September 1st, you're being a kid. You're going on vacation. you're going to go do other stuff. You're going to train again. You're going to like, hey, listen, you know what? I got done playing, my spring. And when you play your spring and summer season, by the way, Aaron, it goes back to what you just said. You're still training. You're never going to ever stop training. You're going to train maybe it's 1 day a week, but you're going to still train. 1 day a week, you're going to go in and train. But when you're in your, what I call that rest period, November 1st through the end of January, you're going to train 2 or 3 times a week. You're going to train so you can get your body back into really great shape for the spring and summer season. And during the spring and summer season, you're going to train 1 day a week if you can. If you can do twice, great. And then you're going to take a break. You're going to rest a little bit because you need rest. Okay. So after that, you could rest for 3 weeks to a month and just go be a kid and do something, not do anything. There's nothing wrong. The body needs to reset, Aaron. You and I know that as ex-professional athletes. Your body needs to reset. Don't do anything for a month. Just chill. So from June 30th through July 30th, chill. Just chill a little bit. Go, hey, go enjoy yourself. Be a kid. Have fun. Run around, ride your bike and all that stuff with your friends. Go to the movies, all that junk. Whatever you do, okay? Get off your phone though. That's a joke. Go do physical stuff. Go do something. Read a book. I don't care. Develop your mental capacity during that time. Read a lot. What's wrong with that? Read, discover yourself, find out who you are. That's great. Then when August 1st is, get back into training a little bit before you start your fall season. So when you go back out to the fall, September 1st, bam, August 1st, August 30th, there I go. I start training again, get my body back into shape, and ease into the fall season. There's your calendar, parents, players. There's your calendar for that 6th, 7th, and 8th grader. You don't need to do it all year round. You don't need to go crazy. You just need to be smart. And like I said, there's a reason for every season.
I love it. You heard it from the brand. He laid it out for you guys. You could take it or you could leave it.
All right, Aaron.
Man, I think we've wrapped this one up. I think it's pretty good.
That sounds good. Hey, thanks for joining us today on Champions Are Built. This is Coach EJ, the brand.
And it's Coach Aaron, the source. We'll see you.